Well, my name is Greg Enas, and welcome to Polk Stables. I'm a co-owner of this building. It's built in 1880, and we rehabilitated it to be a center where we can gather people together, entrepreneurs and business leaders, nonprofit leaders, all that have a common vision to see their work and calling manifest in our city and beyond in beautiful ways that doing healing and redemption and restoration. And so we can host a little Citizen 7 gathering here. For those of you who don't know much about Citizen 7, we're committed to gathering men in large and small ways. Today's a smaller gathering. I'll be telling you about some larger gatherings coming up, but in ways that allow us to build authentic, vulnerable male friendships. And why? Because we believe that unleashing those male friendships into our homes, with our families, into our places of employment and work, and into our streets, into our city, is producing something that will lead to Indianapolis being a city where palpable joy is felt, where palpable sense of belonging and commitment and community across race, across socioeconomic strata. And we are equipping men in order to feel confident doing that. That's why we're having Jayson here, and I'll introduce him briefly. Start to bring an overview on AI, artificial intelligence, coupled with all the native intelligence in the room today. And what power that can do, but to arm you so you're better equipped to lead at home, in your community, and at work. With that, we have a number of events. If you aren't on the mailing list, please check out citizen7indy.com. And you can put your name on our mailing list because we have a number of things. Or see Dan Johnson right here. He's our Director of Community Relationship, or whatever name we want to coin it, but building this. Or see me, and we can make sure that your email and address gets on there. There are a couple of things upcoming that I want to alert you to. We are having a large group breakfast at Meridian Hills Country Club next month, so stay tuned for that. We're Pastor Chris Henry from Second Presbyterian Church. We'll do a segue on what Jason's going to lead us through. We're talking AI today. Chris will be talking about what it means to be human in an AI world.
It's real.
So coupling these things together, we'll have a couple hundred guys in this country club free of charge. We always host podcasts, so be on the lookout for some of the podcasts we're doing. This month, for example, we're taking two brothers, Mark and David Musselman. I don't know how you guys know the Musselmans. They're quite a riot. And they're a riot as individuals, they're a riot even more together. And we're going to have a good time talking about what it means to be friends and brothers together and unleashing the power of that in the community. Finally, just want to alert you, coming up in July, we're going to swarm Indianapolis with 777 guys. We're calling it 777 on 7/7, July 7th. The July 7th follows July 4th. What happens in our municipal parks on July 4th? Fireworks, party, picnics, and
trash.
People leave with trash, tons of trash. We're going to come into 21 neighborhoods in urban Indy, and we're going to swarm those parks with you and your families and your kids. Like Simon, you're welcome to come with Dad. 777, and we're going to assist the Department of Parks cleaning up those neighborhoods and building relationships with those that are nearby in the home. So just stay tuned for some of that stuff. It's a joy to be able to gather and then unleash ourselves in the community. So with that, though, I want to introduce Jayson here. Jayson's become a new friend. I don't know how many of you listen in to his brand new podcast he stood up under the auspices of IBJ. Chris Spangle produces it. Jayson is the host of it. And I hope one reason you're here is to follow up with this time, knowing I've got to subscribe.
Please.
Podcast, okay?
Yes, please.
I've got to, as you leave, because you're going to really be equipped and enabled to further what you're going to learn here today with that. We're in a world where I've already been addicted a little bit to use of AI, and I'm thinking as I go to bed, just one more prompt. It's like, no, okay, you keep going, right? Well,
yeah.
I don't know if that's good or bad. You can tell us
both.
Otherwise. But AI is increasing the speed, density, and complexity of everything we have here. And so we're going to get into that. But not only for me personally, now people are telling me, Greg, stop talking with AI. You better start developing agents that talk to AI, and then the agents will bring all this horsepower. So now I have to learn how to build agents, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm already open. I just turned 70. I think. So I'm moving from just me. Now they're saying, no, Greg, you got to build bots. You got to use bots. And but Jayson is what I call a forward deployed engineer with us today. Right?
Love it. Love it.
You've been deployed here, and to play a critical role this afternoon, ensuring that we can actually use what AI is all about productively, but humanely in our lives. So with that, Jayson, thank you so much for being here. The rest of the time is yours.
That's perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I have my 10-year-old son with me today. He's the newest member, I guess, of the organization. But my wife and I were scheduled to go to the Pacers game tonight, and she got called away with work, and so she's like, "You want to take Simon?" I said, "Sure," but he has to sit through a presentation. It's like a timeshare presentation. He has to sit through this first, and then he gets the benefit of the Pacers game afterwards. And so he's going to do his best, hopefully. As Greg mentioned, I have a podcast on the IBJ. I would love for you to subscribe. This is the QR code to the YouTube channel. It means a lot to us because we're just working to create content. And my goal is to have human conversations around AI, but also to give you some practical learnings along the way too. This is a very hard topic to talk about in a room of people because we all come at it at different stages in our knowledge base, right? I've asked groups, who in here is beginner? People raise their hands and then they'll be like, but I was coding this thing. You're not a beginner, right? Or so it just kind of depends. Let me start the conversation there. Who in here uses AI every day in some capacity? Nowadays, most of us do. ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, Grok, one of those probably primarily. Most of you are talking to it, like using it as a chatbot primarily. Is there anyone that's building with it? Anyone that's got agents and has started to deploy automations and those sorts of things? Just a few of you probably? Okay, so I'm going to talk primarily about that today. One of the things that Greg and I discussed coming into this was to help enable people to become builders. So this is going to be, it may feel like drinking from a fire hose. My goal is to overwhelm you at the beginning and then walk you through what I did, if that makes sense. And this is going to be very open. So at any point in time, you're like, slow down or double click on that or let's go deeper there. Please, okay? Please do that. And so I want to give you a little backstory on me and why I feel equipped to talk about this stuff, but also kind of how I think about the world. And so for 15 years, I spent time in national politics, and I frankly wouldn't wish that on anybody. If you've ever been around that world at all, it's literally the worst. But I had a chance to see the tip of the spear on some of this stuff. I was running teams of people that were pushing very big, very large public agendas. And in so doing, I personally oversaw us spending, in one election cycle, I spent over $100 million on Facebook ads, just to give you context at the scale at some of this stuff, right? And had a chance to move to DC, had a chance to live out there and follow that life path. Some of my friends chose that, and I said, this is not what I want for my family and I. So we moved back to Noblesville, our hometown. I wanted to be with my kids, and my wife and I started a retail business. It's a board game store. It's like the most analog thing you could possibly have, right? Literally get out the cardboard and roll the dice, and that's what we do. And so we started a game store called Moonshot. And the premise was, this is the entrepreneur in me. So I went to school for entrepreneurship. That's my background. I'm the tip of the spear, run into the fire, then figure out what you're doing inside of the burning building once you're inside the building, right? Versus having the plan on the outside. We started this game store, and my calculus was Amazon's eating the world as a retail space, right? If you're trying to sell widgets or gizmos, it's almost impossible to compete because they're cheaper, they're faster, they have better customer service, and they deliver it right to your door basically same day or next day at this point, right? How does anybody compete with that? But I looked at my hometown of Noblesville and I was like, we have to help build a flourishing downtown community to be able to get economic development to create a place for people to want to go. And so we took over a lease that was way too big for our britches. We put a retail store in the front and we created a community space in the back, similar to this, right? Where you just become a gathering place. Now, every Friday night, if you guys ever get a chance to come to downtown Noblesville on a Friday night, we have 70 people there. Literally we hit fire code every single week. It's wild. And it's such a blessing. It is so fun, and we just get to like breathe life into that space. There's a lot of cool business lessons you learn along the way. And so it's been really fun for me as an entrepreneur because it's a problem that I had to kind of think about and solve. I own a consulting company. I own a catering company. I started a catering company 12 years ago. We're now, I think, the third largest caterer in the state of Indiana. We did 426 weddings last year, for context. So I'm a scale first, figure it out later kind of guy. So with the tech background, the entrepreneurial mindset, this concept of AI comes along, and it couldn't fit me better, right? I love tech, I love speed, I love entrepreneurship, and AI really becomes that. And so when you look at the speed at which AI is moving, this is a quick chart, we won't do a ton of graphics, but to get to 100 million users, it took landline phones 75 years, cell phones 16 years, the internet 7 years. It took ChatGPT 60 days. So when you think about how fast the world moves today, the intention of this slide, there's a lot of population growth, all sorts of other things that aren't considered in this chart, right? But just think about how fast stuff moves now. ChatGPT, 100 million global users in 60 days. That's wild to consider. And so when you think about all of the buzzwords, I call this slide buzzword bingo, right? This is all the buzzwordy type stuff that comes up in AI. I don't expect anybody in this room, I don't know what half these terms mean, right? This is just the speed at which this stuff moves. And it's really hard to keep up. Anybody in here struggling to like keep up with the world of AI right now, right? On my podcast, I had a chance to interview the chief AI officer for a little company in town called Eli Lilly. And Thomas Fuchs said something that made me laugh out loud. He said, AI is like soccer right now. Everybody's talking about it, but nobody's playing, right? And I was like, that's pretty spot on, actually. Like, it's in everything. It's part of everything. It's been around more than we probably give it credit for. But now it's just like, how are we using it? What is this doing? And importantly, why, right? And so one of the things I wanted to start with this group, I don't always do this, but I think it's really important. And I'm sure that Pastor Henry, right, is doing the bigger one. He'll get way deeper into this topic, but I had probably my favorite interview that I got to do on my podcast was I got to interview two philosophers from Notre Dame's Institute for Ethics and the Common Good. This is a department inside of Notre Dame, Catholic University, studying AI ethics. They just got a $50 million grant to study AI ethics with a Christian worldview. What a cool job. I was like, how do I just sign up to do that? That sounds amazing, right? But I had a chance to interview them, and normally when I do a podcast interview, they're like 20 minutes. This one I was like, hey, can I have a little bit more of your time? And we went for 90 minutes, right? And so if you listen to any podcast episode for this group in particular, I would love for you to listen to that one, because they're talking about the hard things that we sometimes gloss over, right? And one of the things that they've been working hard on is creating a way to think about AI. And so they've launched this concept called Delta. It's just a 2-minute video. I'm going to play it, because I think it's really interesting when you think about all the hard problems in the world we have to solve. How do we use the technology? What do we do with it? Why do we do it? They've kind of boiled it down to say, well, why? What's the reason, right? And so we're going to click on this, and hopefully the audio works and everybody can hear it.
The rapid rise of artificial intelligence is causing considerable widespread anxiety. What will the impact be on us and our children? Is the social fabric that holds us together beginning to unravel? Whenever major disruptive changes have occurred throughout history, people of faith have always been there, reknitting that fabric. We need to ask, what makes a human life worth living? And how is this unique, valuable, and distinct from what technology offers us? At the University of Notre Dame, we've developed the Delta framework to guide these conversations. Dignity. Every person is valuable because they are human, not because of how smart, wealthy, or productive they are. When using AI to increase scale, speed, or efficiency, we need to ask how this affects individuals. Embodiment. We are physical, social, vulnerable people. Our senses help us cherish what we encounter, and mortality makes life precious. Virtual reality can never fully capture lived experience. Love. Loving relationships involve two-way exchanges. Tools like chatbots might simulate companionship, but we need real, messy human connections to flourish. Transcendence. There are many good, beautiful things that we did not create. As we begin to use AI to interpret the world, we need to cultivate our capacity for awe and gratitude. Agency. To live a good life, people need the freedom, focus, and ability to make moral choices. Technology can diminish this potential. We must protect decisions that only a human conscience should make. Join us in this work. You can help the world think differently about AI.
So if you're interested in that concept, I would love to encourage you to subscribe to their content at the Institute for Ethics and the Common Good at Notre Dame. They're talking about this stuff every day, and they're meeting with pastors and professors and software folks out in Silicon Valley, and they're trying to tackle the hard problems. And some of the stuff we discussed, which I just love as a construct to think about, I mean, they said the thing that they really think about is, to what end? Like, what's the point of all of this stuff? I mean, just because we can go faster, just because we can optimize and get better, okay, so what? What's the goal at the end of the line? And that's the question we have to ask ourselves when we're starting as Christian men thinking about this world, right? The analogy he used, which I thought was perfect, was if I go into the gym to lift weights, if my goal is to lift as much weight as possible, I should just take a forklift, because it's going to lift a lot more weight than my dumb little human body can, right? But if the goal is to build muscle mass, it's about a regimen and a process and a training program, right? And I think we have to be thinking about that stuff. The conversations I've been having on my podcast are with Congresswoman Houchin, leaders at Lilly. Next week I'm interviewing Secretary of Education, Dr. Katie Jenner, about how they're thinking about AI in the classroom, right? I have a 10-year-old son, and one of the things that the folks from Notre Dame shared with me was 20 years ago, 15 years ago, whenever it really started to take off, the lead people that were building Facebook and Instagram and some of these social media tools out in Silicon Valley, the people building those tools blocked their own children from using those tools because they knew these are not good for people, right? For our children. Like, they're impressionable, they have vanity, there's dopamine, there's addiction, there's all these things that happen with it. And if you see that play out over the last 15 years now, we have a society of mental health issues, we have problems with addiction, we have all sorts of anxiety challenges, right? But here's the interesting thing. They asked the builders of today, the people that are building Grok and ChatGPT, what about now? And it's the exact opposite. So the builders of today are giving their young kids these tools right now. And I said, why in the world would they do that? Why? Any thoughts? Anybody have any thoughts on why they would let the kids have that tool and block social media?
Thinking their kids will learn.
Yeah, good.
If they learn it now, they'll be ahead.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, one is consumption, one is creative.
That's also a great point. Exactly right. I think those are really the 2 points, right? And so if you've ever read Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers, the premise of, you may have heard, if you haven't, this is a stat that blow your mind. 80% of all professional hockey players' birthdays are in January and February, something like that. Did you guys know this? If you haven't read the book, you probably wouldn't know that. Well, why? Doesn't make any sense, right? He works backwards and says, well, because at the age of 5, when they put you into the haves and the have-nots group on your youth hockey team, the kids that have a 10-month head start as a 5-year-old are more developed and better, right? And when the birthdays break December 31st for an age bracket, the older kids are farther along and therefore get put into the advanced program, and it just does this all the way through their training to the point where a large majority of professional hockey players' birthdays are in January and February. Isn't that wild to think about? And so the people that are building these tools in Silicon Valley today are giving it to their kids because they want their kids to get into Harvard. And this is the fastest path to be exceptional at the earliest ages, because this is seen as a productivity booster and not a distraction, because they're creating and not consuming. How do we think about that? Any thoughts? Yeah.
I'm asking for myself and my kids. It's easy to outsource your brain.
Yeah.
So what's like devil's advocate? Like I agree. Like I want my kids to learn how to use AI, but writing. I want them to know how to write paragraphs and not just prompt 2 words. Write a paragraph, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
So also for myself, I don't want to lose that skill.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, let me ask you this question. How many of you in here have at least, let's say, 5 phone numbers memorized? Maybe 10. How many of you have 10 phone numbers memorized? One person in the whole, maybe a couple, right? But 20 years ago, every number that I had the Pizza Hut memorized, right? But if you don't use it, you lose it. And I think that's a real challenge we have to think about. And so when I give presentations like this, I'm going to show you some practical stuff. We're going to get in the weeds into how to build. But one of the things I want to challenge you men, myself, us as leaders of our families and our communities, to have the conversations around the dinner table about the why behind the what. It's not just, can you go build a cool thing? Cool, that's neat. And it is neat, right? And creating productivity boosts and increasing your company's profits and doing things, that's cool. It really is. And in some ways, it's necessary to stay in the race, right? Let alone winning the race. But the thing I would just constantly challenge us to think about is, to what end? What's too much, right? If we've outsourced all of our agency, if we're no longer making any decisions, my kid never has to learn to read because it'll read to him. It seems like a problem, right? And so I just want to continue to think about that as we go. Now I'm going to do an exact 180 flip here because I just find this to be exceptionally funny. Any of you know Leroy Jenkins? A couple of you have been around the game world. All right, so for those of you who haven't, I'm going to turn down the audio here for a second, but I'll explain. I'll turn it back on. I'll explain what's happening, okay? So this is a large multiplayer online game, right? Role-playing game, Morg or whatever they're called. And so these are all characters. These people are all sitting at home in their basements probably, right, playing this game together. They all represent their own character. And what's going to happen is they're preparing for battle, okay? So all these little individual people with the things over there, they're individual people. They're all in the room, and they're planning to go in and take on the boss, right? They have decided that this is their moment. They've been preparing for weeks or maybe even months to go in and make this attack. And so they're planning. Hold on, somebody's calling me. I forgot to turn on my air mode. And at the 1 minute and something mark, here we'll skip ahead to here maybe. There may be some vulgar language, apologies if so.
What do you think of Bill? Can you give me a number crunch real quick?
Yeah, give me a sec. I'm coming up with 32.33 repeat, of course, percentage of survival.
Oh, that's a lot better than you usually do. Great guy.
Oh my god, I just ran in.
Okay, so these guys are all sitting around a room having a master plan on how they're going to do this together as a group, and their one idiot friend just bull charges into the room and gets them all slaughtered, right? And so it's just such a funny concept because it's like, I'm that guy sometimes, right? My entrepreneurial nature is like, let's just go figure it out. I told you earlier, run in the room and then figure out what happens. Well, sometimes slowing down and having a plan actually makes a difference too, right? And so I love this one. I think it's just a fun thing to kind of interject into a conversation. The reason I show you that is because I am intending today to just jump in and start showing you what I'm building, but I want you to stop me if it's overwhelming, if it's confusing, if you want to double click on anything. I have found after doing dozens and dozens of these presentations, the best way is to just show you instead of to like put up screens and talk about stuff, okay? And so we talked about chat. I put up here, chat is yesterday, today is agents, I think. Greg talked about that. And then tomorrow is really automation, like where it's just doing it for you. And I'm going to show you what I do today and how I think about stuff, and then we'll go backwards from there. But we talked about chat. Now, how many of you, ChatGPT specifically, is there a tool that any Gemini, a couple of those, any co-pilots? Probably because your company requires it. Claude, you said? How many of you have changed which one you're using? So tell me, Spangle, tell me what you did and what you're doing now.
GPTs and Gemini and Claude.
Okay.
Just make Claude seem more of
More of an ethical company. Super interesting. Okay, what else? Anyone else want to give me their journey?
I did the same.
Because it's ethical?
Not for ethical purposes, but because it's a lot better in my opinion than chat.
Okay. Any other people want to share their journey? Is everybody on the, we're all using Claude now because it's the thing? Yeah, good.
And played with 4 or 5 and landed on Claude mostly with ChatGPT.
Okay.
For also because it was so seamless financial.
That's great. So you're building with Claude Code then? Okay. Anybody else building with the coding bots? A couple of you? Okay, we'll get into some of that today too. And that's where it really opens your eyes. You're like, oh my goodness, this is a cheat code, right? It's unbelievable what happens with the world. And so my journey was I got introduced to ChatGPT a couple years ago, probably when it first really hit the mainstream. And I was all in instantly, right? I think I've had the most expensive account on every one of these platforms ever since they came out, probably. And what I have found is that ChatGPT is very, very good if you've not done anything. It's so user-friendly, it's so easy, and it's so good to just get started. So for those of you that have never really used an AI agent before, I would probably start there, right? How many of you that use ChatGPT have used the audio feature of it? Like maybe a couple of you? All right, let me just show that to you. So if you haven't seen this before, I think it's really an amazing starting point. Because if you've ever used Siri or Alexa, most devices nowadays have some version of a talking agent built into it. ChatGPT voice is that, but with audio. So when I'm driving, my son can confirm. He's always like, I don't want to talk to this thing anymore. See, he's waving his head. Because I'll just turn it on my car audio and we just have a chat where we're going, hey, I'm getting ready to go meet someone and I want to know about their backstory and what they did and what their business is and that sort of thing. And so this is it, just to play it for you. Hey, I'm in a room of Christian men leaders in the Indianapolis-area. We are at Polk Stables in the Martindale-Brightwood area. I want you to introduce yourself and to maybe tell them a snippet or two about this area that you could impart some wisdom on them.
Hey everyone, I'm glad to be virtually here with you all. I'm your AI companion. Think of me as a conversational partner who's got your back whenever you need a bit of insight or a fresh perspective. Now, Polk Stables is a piece of history right in Martindale-Brightwood. This area has deep roots in Indianapolis' African-American community. Once a hub for black working-class families during the railroad era, over time has been through challenges, but it's also been a space of resilience, community rebuilding, and hope. I'm sure many of you are part of that ongoing renewal, so as you lead, keep in mind that the legacy of community strength is already under your feet. I'm excited to see.
It's not Siri. Right? It's not here. The weather is 56 degrees, right? It's like having a conversation with a human being, like the smartest human being in the world, just sitting there next to you, which, as the Delta framework was talking about, like can be intoxicating. It's like, man, I have the smartest person in the world sitting next to me, and we can talk about literally anything at any time. That is a resource and an asset if you choose to use it, but it also can like steer you in the wrong direction if you're not careful. One thing that you all have experienced firsthand is that AI tools are sycophantic in some way. They parrot you. They want to please you. And so they very regularly are like, yeah, Jason, that's the greatest idea anyone's ever come up with. I'm like, thanks, right? So you have to be really careful and thoughtful about how you interact with these tools. The reason I showed you that was simple. If you're not using any AI tools today, the challenge I would give to you is if you go home or go anywhere and try to Google something, try ChatGPTing it instead. Just start there, right? That is the first step to finding a change in mindset, I think, to try to start using some of these tools. We can talk about the complexities and the differences and the nuance. Maybe I'll hold that till the end if you guys have questions around which tool for which job, so to speak. But I like ChatGPT to start with. I think some of these people are on the right path, that Claude has elevated itself very quickly, very usable, and has some wildly cool features built into it. I'll show you some of that. I also believe fundamentally that Google has stepped up its game tremendously in the last 6 months. Prior to that, honestly, I was so frustrating when I'm inside of a Google Doc and I can't get Google's own Gemini to do anything. And I have to go to ChatGPT to get it to do something in Google. Like, what is happening right now? But that's really starting to tighten up. And if you've spent much time around Google's ecosystem at a high technical level, that company is so big and there are so many different teams and groups that the right arm and the left arm sometimes just aren't talking. And so they're smoothing that out. Google is going to be probably the powerhouse in AI because they are the biggest, strongest, baddest beast on the planet. But with great power comes great responsibility. And what I'm witnessing is Claude is stepping up and saying, we're going to try to do this ethically. Anthropic, the company that owns them. Now, with great power comes great responsibility. How ethically, right? Ethically as in like good enough, or ethically as in like Jesus's model? Like, how are we doing this, right? Yeah.
So when you say there are differences in ethics, what does that mean to you? What is one doing that another's not doing? You'd say ethics.
Well, so, and I don't intend for this to get political, but I'll give you some context. You probably read in the news that the Department of Defense said the Pentagon was only using Anthropic. That was their LLM that they were using internally. And the Department of Defense said, hey, we want you to remove all of the restrictions off of your software so that we can use it for whatever we want to use because we're the Pentagon, right? And Anthropic said, well, we'll do some of that stuff, but there's a few things we're not going to budge on. And it came all the way to the firing range, and the Pentagon fired them and canceled them across the entire corporate entity of the government, and I think even issued like a national security supplier crisis against them, right? And Anthropic, as a business, that's the hard challenge, right? As a business, like, you don't want that, for sure. But they made a choice. I'm not backing that specific choice, but I think that if you look at how they do things, I'll show you this in real time. When you go to do something on your computer using Claude's app, and it has the potential to do something nefarious, it prompts and says, do you mean to give it permission to access this thing? Yes or no, right? All the other tools just do it. And so to me, they've thought about the permission side of it and the agency side of it and the do you mean to do this part versus just letting it run free. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so, again, we don't get the luxury of seeing what happens behind the scenes. It's all big black box. I don't know if they're scumbags behind the scenes or if they're authentic or what, right? But I can tell you that the software design feels, from an outsider's perspective, more focused on me instead of taking advantage of me, right? And I mean, good example too, if you watch any of the congressional conversations, like Meta, Facebook, is notorious for like abusing its users for its own gain, right? Just recently, Zuckerberg was in court talking about how he was fighting to keep the age of consent for Instagram at 13 years old, right? Congresswoman Halchin was just telling me that her 13-year-old daughter got an Instagram account, and she found out. She asked her to shut it down. It didn't get shut down. She went to Instagram directly and said, I want to shut this down. And Instagram said, you cannot because it's not your account. She said, it's my daughter, she's 13. They said, sorry, our terms of service are with your daughter. Now, you can't vote, you can't drive a car, you can't smoke a cigarette, you can't drink a beer, you can't go in the army, but you can sign a contract on the internet, right? It just doesn't make any sense. And so I think there's a lot of conversations that probably have to happen there. I don't have all the answers. What I try to do on my podcast is to ask the questions and get people smarter than me to pontificate and talk about that sort of stuff. And so that's the hard part probably, is that, and that's the part I really want to challenge you guys on, is get informed on these things, read up on them, have these conversations, have these discussions, because frankly, like, this stuff is moving faster than any legislator, than any legal group. The laws don't know how to keep up with this stuff. The schools don't know how to keep up with this stuff, right? Last year, Indiana's official policy was AI is banned in schools. School systems could change that, but the policy was no AI in schools. This year, the policy is they can use it, but they have to disclose that they're using it. I'm told next year's policy is just assume they're always using it all the time. Quite literally, right? That's 2 years. And so it's such a hard conversation to think about. And so a big part of this conversation is not just the practical, how do I go build a thing, but it's the why. It's the to what end, right? And that's where I want all of you to leave here talking to your friends about, talking to your family about, leading your family with, right? How do we do this responsibly? Because I will tell you, people ask me, the number one question I get is AI going to take my job? Legitimately, that's the question. And my answer today is no, but someone using it probably will, right? Because they can do 5 times what you can do if they're using it effectively. And I'll show you some of that today. I do think at some point in the not too distant future, a lot of jobs are going to go away, full stop. I don't know what that means. I can't predict that. I have no idea. But I think we as a society have to start thinking about that, right? There are some predictions out there that say 50% of all jobs in America will be replaced by AI. 50%. What does that do to an economy? It doesn't just magically fix itself. We're resilient. Our economy is resilient. I get that. But I mean, these are things we have to start thinking about. So what I try to tell folks today is prepare yourself. Prepare your family. Get ahead of it. Start thinking about it. Start using these tools. Get familiar with them. Go from there. Before I get into showing you things, any questions, comments, or concerns about any of that?
I would say there's a stealth hidden job reduction that has already happened.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we have a number of software engineers at our company. We have not backfilled
Yep.
one who's left.
We're not hiring juniors, not hiring contractors for
Yep.
2 or 3 years. And it's very much because of productivity gains for software engineering in particular, which we all thought people as biology to replace.
Machine, right?
Yeah.
So just to add.
And it's one of the first jobs that's getting replaced by the machines.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love your t-shirt, by the way.
Well, thank you.
With that, sort of made me think about it, like, since we're learning to use these tools are here.
That's right.
Here,
That's right.
Anywhere. Aren't we actually training ourselves out of these jobs? Like, we're training the AI to become smarter. Now we're training the agents. You said tomorrow's automated. So we're training the days to be smarter, technically,
Sure.
be faster,
Sure.
be more productive.
Yep.
Well, we're talking about ethically. So, like,
Yep.
are we teaching it so that they take it?
Maybe. I don't know the answer to the second part. I think the first part, like, the world moves forward with or without us, right? How many switchboard operators exist today, right? How many people that sit on the elevator and push the button for you to go up and down, outside of at the Pacer games, because that's a sweet job. But outside of that, like, how much of that, right? And so those jobs have evolved, and as a society, we find new things. I was talking to a lawyer about this, and they're scared, right? I mean, I can write a legal contract that's probably as good as anything they can write in about 8 seconds, right? And it's a real thing. And so if I'm a lawyer and I go to higher ed and then law school and then go through law school and then I'm 12 years into this career path before I actually start making any money, and now all of a sudden, like, I can't make any money, that's a real challenge, right? But I think what's going to happen is it will evolve. The lawsuits are just going to get messier. They're just going to get clunkier. There's places where there's no precedence, and they're going to be suing each other over that stuff, right? Like, I think that we're going to find economic opportunities in all these different places. I don't know what that means, but I'm an optimist, right? I believe that if we're willing to understand that the world is changing and not just stick our head in the sand and saying, I'm not going to try, that's where I believe you could get left behind.
I'll ask you a question after that. I have a question on AI training AI day.
Okay, we'll come back to it. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing, of the day myself, but it feels a little bit like the adoption of fresh.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is people had to have
Scared.
look at a chart or a set of conclusions from a spreadsheet without ever testing.
Yeah.
Only will correct if there are any errors
Yep.
in the process. They just took the endpoint and ran.
Yeah.
So I feel like everything you're describing around AI outputs.
Yep.
It's like how to develop a skill set to do the back end testing to have to say, should I believe this? Should I take this data and run with it? Or are there errors in what AI doing?
That's a real thing. And that's present day. So the answer to that question to me is, as the world moves, present day, it's still full of hallucinations and inaccuracies, right? It was worse 6 months ago or a year ago. It's getting better every day because it starts to build its own error checking and validation in. So part of what I build today nowadays will test itself 16 different ways before it presents it to me, right? Which spreadsheets could never do unless you built them to do. So we're going to get to a place where it's giving you bulletproof info at some point, right? It's just time over target to get to that place. But I will say, as it relates to that specifically, I heard President Mung Chiang talk today from Purdue about how that university is thinking about this stuff. And he said that their board of directors just approved AI as a core requirement, an AI class as a core requirement to graduate from Purdue University. And they're doing digital literacy now, where you have to actually do something with an AI tool in your field of study to get your certificate to graduate from the university. And the reason for that is because employers expect you to walk into the job force knowing how to build with these tools, right? When I talk to the folks at Eli Lilly, they do their performance reviews with all their staff, and they expect you, when you walk into that room to do your performance review, to be you plus your agents that work for you, right? They literally treat you as if you now have a superpower, and you kind of get judged that way because they know you have it. They've given you the tools. If you're not choosing to use those tools, they're going to find someone else that will, right? And so that's really the attitude. It's really about just figuring out how to use the tools to the best of your ability, figuring out how it works for you. Everyone's not tip of the spear, go code up all this stuff. But I'm telling you right now, if you are just reluctant to this and you're like, I'm not dealing with it, it will catch up with you. I fundamentally believe that because it is moving so fast. Okay? I'm going to show you what that means now, unless anybody else has any other questions. Yeah?
About sort of like data, like governance management.
Yep.
In terms of maybe how the Pentagon has, they can like firewall anything and like protect where.
Sure.
But how does a regular company go and protect their data from AI?
Most don't do it well. So the current protocol right now for most people that are very concerned about security is we just don't allow AI inside of our company. And woof, that's not the right answer, right? And so it comes down to experimentation. It comes down to building the right governance structures and protocols. It's not an easy answer, right? With great power comes great response. Think about it this way. The number one way to hack into a company's system is to steal somebody important's email password. That's literally the fastest way in to cause havoc inside of a company. And there's a lot of folks out there that have like password 123 as their password, right? And if you get in and it's the wrong person, you can now act as that person, reset passwords, set two-factor authenticate. You can do all these things. So when you think about giving all of your people in your organization access to these tools, man, they can cause real problems for you. And so that is a very hard problem to solve that a lot of people are actively working to solve. I have lots of thoughts on that issue, but it really depends on your culture, who your competitors are, what this looks like, how sensitive your data actually is, right? And I honestly come from startup culture where it's like, I mean, I'm not worried about it. If you really want it that bad, I'll just give you my P&L statement, right? Like, it's not that big of a deal, but some companies obviously, HIPAA compliance, SOC, all those sorts of things have to do it differently. So it's a hard question to answer. There's no black and white, I don't think. Okay, well, let me talk a little bit about one thing that people always tell you when you do a live do a presentation is don't ever do anything live because it breaks, but that's just not my thing. So I'm going to do some stuff live. Okay, this is a tool. So I have a consulting company that I do AI consulting for folks. Do mostly presentations. I don't really do a whole lot of like work for hire stuff. But I have two people on my team. One is my executive assistant and the other is a creative director that just likes to build things, right? She's been on maternity leave for 3 months. She just came back 3 weeks ago. And in that time, when she came back, I said, all right, let's get into the weeds on this AI stuff. Let's go build our own tool to manage our life. Let's eat our own dog food, right? To steal Mark Cuban's term, instead of like trying to adopt Airtable or Trello or Asana or some of these tools that do that. And so we created, over the last couple weeks, our own tool that manages our to-dos, okay? I have it hooked up to my calendar where it pulls in all my tasks and to-dos. We have client information in here. I have individual tasks with the drag and drop feature to be able to move my tasks around. I have nested abilities to leave comments or check marks. I have task files. I mean, like every feature you see here was us saying, wouldn't it be cool if we had that feature? And then we just go do that feature, right? I'm going to show you what that means and how to do that because this feels overwhelming. That's why I said I'm going to start here and then we're going to work backwards. But this is state of the world today in terms of being able to create something for you that isn't just learn how to use the software that your company gives you, okay? And it really is a fundamental game change if you're into this sort of thing. We have to manage social media pages. I told you I own a board game store, right? We were using some third-party software to do that, and it was terrible. And so I was like, let's just go build our own. So in 2 hours, we built a tool that allows us to put in all the details for a social media post, schedule it, build an approval process, get feedback on it. Whole thing, soup to nuts, automatically posts on a schedule to our social media pages, right? Like, sure, you could buy a piece of software that'll do that, but this thing bolts right into our tasks and our to-dos and our process. And so when you start thinking about trying to manage life with 1,000 moving variables, what if it all fit into this, right? I have to manage a podcast. You good? I have to manage a podcast. I've committed to do 52 episodes. We've recorded 15 so far, okay? So I have a list of upcoming episodes and roughly who's going to be on these. I have a whole thing of guests that we might have on, right? And people that we might have on and when they might record and what that looks like. And this is just a tool that I built for my EA who stresses out about having to book a show every week, right? I don't worry about it because I don't really worry about a whole lot of things, but she certainly does. And so when we sat down and said, what could we build as a company to make your life easier to manage? She said it would mean the world if we built a podcast management tool. Okay, done, right? So we had a social media tool. You can't get this in Asana or Trello. You could duct tape it together. But as I tell my kids, you get what you get and you don't throw a fit when you use software, right? It's opinionated, it does what it does, and that's what you get. The world we're in today is, if you know how to build these kinds of tools, you just custom build it to do exactly what you want it to do. And you can hook it up and you can integrate it and you can make it do all these different things. I can show you dozens of examples of things that we're building. And what I'm going to show you today is how to do something like this. Does that seem like a reasonable thing to dig into? Okay.
Are old guys that you learn this?
Yeah. So there's lots of tools that are moving forward. It depends on preference, kind of like the chat bots. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to open a product up. This is called Replit, R-E-P-L-I-T. Okay, Replit is a paid service. The way it works is you put in, I think it's $25, and it gives you some amount of credits. And every time you do a thing, it charges you some amount of credits off of that. And when you get to 0, it says, would you like to recharge, right? So it's like the old cell phone model where you had minutes and when you used them all, you had to buy more, right? That's kind of the model it is right now. But this is what's called an agentic input screen. So this is where I tell my agent what I want it to build, and it goes out and builds it for me. So imagine this. You're sitting down with a software developer, and you have an idea for an app that you want to build. When I say app, I mean web application, not like an iPhone app, okay? But it can be used on mobile or desktop or whatever. But it's a website, basically, that has logins and connections and application and all of that, right? And you're sitting down with the software developer, and you decide that you want to build it. Who in here has an idea for an app? Is there anything Citizen 7 specific, or is there anything anybody has in here that, if you've got one, just like, let's talk about it. Let's just throw it up here and I'll show you. Go.
So I've got, at the end of the day at our company, and I want to carry balances over with credit card, anything that goes into that to change the balance from one day to the next day and the after.
Okay, so I understand. You have multiple credit cards.
So let's just say that we have any receipts and receivables that come in or out.
Okay.
So the office manager is going to give you at the end of the day what the balance is.
Like they physically tell you it's $18.28.
Basically, they're going to take whatever, like yesterday's balance was, add the charge of the APs, what they added to it, and
Okay.
at the end of it, give me an end of the day balance.
Okay. And it's how many different transactions, accounts, charts?
10 to 15 total.
Transactions? In one account?
No, in the whole day.
Okay. And how many, is this different accounts then all connected together, or how does this?
Three credit cards and a checking account.
Okay.
And a sweep account.
So let me make sure I understand this correctly. So you have 15 transactions that come through in a day, and you have those item numbers, and those are coming from a statement or?
It could come from a credit card charge. It could come from a sweep account, taking one account and moving it over to another.
Pulling it. So, okay, so I can do this. I can show you conceptually how to do this. The problem I would tell you with vibe coding something like this is you're talking about connecting to bank accounts, which makes me nervous as a consultant, right? Because I mean, we could build a view only that only pulls down and can't push back, right?
what the person would enter and
Sure.
getting into the.
Got it. Let's do that then, okay? All right. I need you to build an application where I can enter a handful, let's call it 15 to 20 daily transactions that are flowing through my company. And I need to have a balance amount for those at the end of every day. And so that I can track my balance day to day. I also probably want a dashboard where I can see what my transaction amounts are each day, maybe a line graph showing transactions each day. It'd be cool to have a look back on all of the balances every day to see if there's some anomalies in the way or whatever. Are there any specific things you're looking for when you're doing this? Like, what's the goal of this? What's the point of this?
Accuracy from one day to the next day of a human error.
Okay. Specifically, I'm looking to really track down any human errors across multiple accounts to make sure that there's not money missing or money misaccounted for. So help me build this. I need input screens to track this stuff, and then I need a visual dashboard to see it. Okay, so this is an example, real time, okay? And I'm telling this tool, go build this application for me.
This is AI building.
AI is building it. So it's like sitting down with a software developer and telling the software developer, I want you to do X, right? As we were talking about earlier, he's got software developers, they're not backfilling some of those roles. Part of the reason is because junior software developers, you would sit down with one, it would do that, and it would go. Here's what it's saying. I'm building you a transaction tracking app where you add daily transactions across multiple accounts with running balance calculations, daily balance tracking, and a visual dashboard, okay? So that's what it heard me say, and it's going out there and actually building this application. It'll take a few minutes, so while it's doing that, let's just shift over and do something else. How's that sound?
What LLM?
You can set it up to any that you want to. I have mine set up to OpenAI. So when you use Replit, the core features, it has a connection to OpenAI as its default. But then when you hook AI into it, you choose your own models from there. And the pricing is dependent upon how complex your model is and how robust it is and how fast it comes back. And so it's all transactional. I'll show you at the end of this. You'll get to physically see it building this thing, okay? Then you'll get to see how much it costs to get to this MVP, minimum viable product. Yeah? Yeah, go ahead.
Jason, I was going to say, if you wanted, you could plug in Enas, type in 70th, type in birthday.replit.app, and see a picture of Greg for in this case that is fully built.
Sounds like we have to do that.
So Enas, 70th, birthday.replit.app. And this is something where the video collection tools didn't have enough memory horsepower to upload.
Yep.
But basically, I had a third-party tool that it integrated to basically high ABI or gigabyte storage.
Yep.
And it integrated on the spot.
Yeah.
And it designed this would be just putting one picture and then a little bit of like detail around it. And this, from the first time using it, was like 20 minutes to like go live. And I was just like, this is insane.
So when
I used it. I had no idea. I loved it. How it got built.
My career, my technical career was quality assurance and testing, and it was a seamless user experience. I did not have any issues. I did 2 cakes. I did it all standing outside the bank of Carmel in the wind that came close, and it worked perfectly. I mean, not just illustrating something like that would have taken weeks to months just 5 years ago.
So what you're seeing is tools like this, tools like Claude Code and Claude Cowork are causing a lot of riffles right now in the software space. If you have software as a service that you're paying for, right, to run your business, and you're paying a monthly fee, a lot of times you're paying per license or per user inside of your company, sometimes it's hundreds of dollars per person, you can now rebuild 80% of that overnight on your own without those things. Like, companies are really feeling the pressure of this. The software companies that have built their entire model on selling you something that cost them $1 per license seat for you, like hard costs, and they're selling it to you for $150 a month per user, right?
QuickBooks and Java, things
QuickBooks, Jobber, Salesforce, HubSpot.
Clay?
What is it?
Clay?
I don't know what that is.
Prospecting database tool that mostly is LinkedIn scrapes.
Yeah, sure. Let me show you something I built with that?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do that. Here, we'll just pull it up. So I had a client reach out to me that said, hey, I am interested in building a prospecting tool. I said, okay. I don't know which one it is, so give me a second. So I built Prospector IQ. I have less than 4 hours, probably 3 hours total time built into this application, okay? What's the URL? That's not right. Don't go to this URL because I haven't password protected it, but here's what I did. They just basically said, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could find every dentist office in the 5 counties that we service, right? Well, that sounds fun. How would we do that? So I just went to the AI bots and I said, how do I find every dentist office? Well, it turns out dentist offices have to be registered with the federal government to get their license, right? So I said, dear federal government, how do I get that database? And I found this like 3 gigabyte database of every dentist office in the entire United States. It's not super helpful, but the data's in there somewhere, right? So I pulled that down and I told one of my AI tools, a tool called Cursor, which lives on my desktop, to parse this massive file and to strip out only the things in the 5 counties that I cared about. And it said, well, it doesn't have county data in there, so I can't do that, but it does have zip codes. So here's what I'll do. I'll go ahead and write a script that converts counties into zip codes, and then I'll just pull all the ones that match the zip codes of those 5 counties. It's like, perfect. That was easy, right? I didn't do anything. It just did it all for me. That was called Cursor. Yep. So Cursor is a software app you download. It's really tailored to probably more on the coder side than the, I mean, you really have to kind of, it's code with chat, but it's a little more technical, right? It's going to do Python scripting for you and analyze code for you, but it's wonderful. It does large data files and can fight through those and do stuff with them.
Is Claude Code, if you were doing Claude Code, would that be an equivalent?
Probably. This was before Claude Code existed. Well, maybe not. Claude Code was probably around. This was before I used Claude Code regularly. It was kind of the preeminent like technical lead on the vibe coding side. And so I still use, I pay for every one of these services. I have the pro version of all of them. I'm not the right use case, right? Like I probably spend thousands of dollars a month in software fees to do all this stuff because that's my world. It's what I do. I'm in it every day. And so I bet Claude Code could probably do it. We could run an experiment and see. But moral story is I have a gigabyte, multi-gigabyte file. I need to get only those out. I said, great, I pulled those out. It gave me the address, the registered agent's name on the business, and a handful of other fields that were mostly not super helpful. I was like, okay, well, that's a thing. Now what do I do? Well, what I said was, well, let's separate those into companies and contacts, right? And then I said, well, now that I have this basic information for this dentist office, let me hook this up to Google Places. Because Google Places knows all kinds of information about them, and Google Places has an API. So I just told this Replit application, go take this database, hook it up to Google Places, and go scrape from that phone number, Google reviews, any details you can get from that. So you'll see here, it pulled in address, clickable address, link to Google Maps, website, Google ratings, if it's operational, coordinates, it pulled all this stuff in. That's kind of a cool next step. Now I've got phone numbers and in some cases email addresses for every one of these dentist offices, right? But I still don't want a one-size-fits-all where you can have any color you want as long as it's black, Henry Ford model, right? I want to be able to like treat these dentists differently. So then I built another tool that actually goes and scrapes their website, analyzes their website, and gives me back a report on every one of these companies. And I ran that. And so it goes out and it says, hey, this entity has 10 doctors that work for it. These are all the specialties that they do. They've been in business for 46 years. They have a single location. Here's the summary of it. And here's all the pages inside of the URL that we scraped to compile this information for you, right? So in a matter of a few hours, total time, I went from an idea to downloading the entire dentist database, running it against Google Places, running it against their own websites, and now I have this comprehensive breakdown of all of these companies, and you can just see the sheer volume of information that I have from a prospecting tool. Questions about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so like for example, right? Let's say like new data is, coming to the market.
Yep.
How would
You wouldn't. This.
we automatically like?
Yeah, you could build a feature that like occasionally scrapes a Google and says, hey, if I don't have one of these, upsert a new one into the system. But because I use the federal government's data as my starting point, I would have to wait for the federal government's data to refresh to do a full one. Now, I would probably, if this were accurate, I would probably build a way to be poking, prodding, and pinging to find those new places, right? I'd find a way to listen and solve for that. But I just wanted to show you from a prospecting perspective, like, built this prospecting tool in no time. And it was just a free thing. It was a buddy that said, could you do this? And I was like, I don't know, probably. And I just did. Questions about any of this? Is this overwhelming? Is this interesting? What are our thoughts? Is he going to be selling it? I hope not. I don't really know. I don't think so. They just asked if I could do it. That's all I was trying to solve for.
It's like vital to what I do as a career, so I'm like all of these business I'll probably work with after this.
Okay. So are you wanting to buy it? Is that what you're asking? Or are you wanting to?
I would want this.
I'll teach.
1,000% useful to guys who think the younger do that.
Well, give me your email address and I'll send you a copy of it. How's that sound? But the point, though, is like if you just think about the problem you're trying to solve and you get comfortable with these tools, you can dig into it. And so this is the part I'm going to make that hopefully is the mind shift. We've got about 20 minutes and I want to be fair on our time today. Happy to answer some questions and stick around. I do have to get Fella to a Pacer game, so I can't stay too long. But it really is a mindset difference, right? We, especially as humble Hoosiers, struggle to use AI tools correctly. We're so used to Google searches where we try to limit how much we put in. We're so used to using software tools where it gives us a field and we fill in the field that we're not used to like open-ended thinking and how do I prompt you in such a way where I get back something great, right? And so instead of interacting with a web page, this is the challenge for you. Think of it like and I know this is contradictory to everything I said about with the Delta framework on the front end, but think about it like a human being sitting next to you. If you were coaching a software developer to build your application, what would you tell them, right? If you had to build a prospecting tool, what would you say to them? And just say it. You don't have to be right, you just have to get it out there. And if it doesn't understand, it will come back and say, I need clarity on this, this, or this, right? That's literally how this whole process works.
One more question for you.
Sure.
How about from protection? What if I wanted AI to protect from other people, from other AI to get my information? Can it be used for that?
Oh, for sure. The tools I'm using, not necessarily. So if you're building a tool like this, anything I build, I put behind login screens, and I use Google's OAuth system to do that. So you have to log into my Google email address to get in to anything that I build. But
you want to protect your identity or your company, any AI tool that protects against other AI tools.
Yes, but it's not something you would build. It's something you would buy. And one of the challenges you're going to face, because it'd be too hard, you can't stay on the cutting edge of whack-a-moling every ding-dong out there. I tell folks like, at my house, I could install an alarm system, a gate, dogs, deadbolts. I could put 15 deadbolts down my door, and if they want in bad enough, they're just going to drive a truck through my wall or take a chainsaw and come in the side of the house, right? And so like, security is a little bit wild to think about in the big picture, but in general, like, there are tools. That is a buy versus build. I would always err on buy versus trying to build. Any other questions about this? All right, let's pull up what was your first name? Kurt? All right, Kurt, here's the first version of your little tool that we came up with, okay? It's got a little dashboard feature, right? You can put transactions in, you just add the entries, right? It has your different accounts connected, right? This one needs paid. Thankfully, you got some money over here to use for it. And then it'll show you the daily balances. And so this is a made up version where it is creating, it's pulling the data. This is all sample data. We didn't give it anything. But if you had exports from each of those bank statements, even if you had exports for the last 5 years, as PDFs, as Excel file, as anything, screenshots even, you could just upload all of those and say, backfill all of this, and it'll fit right into this application. We built that in less than 2 minutes, probably, of effort. It took 15 minutes to build, But here's the thing. I just hired this software developer to build this thing. My total cost to get to this point was $3.92. Okay? So when you think about solving problems for you as a business owner, as a nonprofit leader, as a husband, right? You can do really neat things with tools like this. Yeah?
And that tool you just built, how do you grab that and put it somewhere so you can use it every day?
So what you normally do is you publish it directly to a URL. So right here it's going to say yours was Enas 70th birthday.replit. By default, for free, it's going to put it at dailybalancetracker-genmoonx.replit.app. And I could send that to anybody to use. I would probably password protect it if it had any financial information in it. But adding a password is as simple as coming in here and saying, I need you to password protect this app. Please use Google's login system. And I hit go, and within 5 minutes now it's Google password protected. There's no technical infrastructure. There's no like learning how to do stuff. It's just on. Yeah?
So it's not hosted anywhere?
It is. It's hosted on Replit's tools. I think they use AWS.
You pay them like monthly fee?
It's pennies.
Okay.
Absolute pennies. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, every AI tool you use has cost. I read a story in Axios this morning how this is probably the cheapest time AI is going to be, because right now they're all in the 1940s gold rush model. They all want you to get into their systems. And once you're hooked, just like Uber, just like Amazon, the prices will start going up, right? But for now, it's pretty inexpensive. Yeah?
Jayson, how are you pulling this and make it actionable where you already are? Like, say if you're one of the email update or text, like how you find AI tools to kind of like feed in your workflow where you're...
My existing workflows?
Yeah, instead of like going into each of these different systems.
Yeah. Well, it just depends. Like, so I use, we're a Google shop, and so I use Google Calendar. And I live off of that probably. But I don't have my emails connected to this per se. I'm going to show you one more tool, and then we'll probably be at time. I want to leave any time for a question. But one other tool, we talked about Claude on the front end of this, okay? So how many of you have used the actual Claude downloaded app that has co-work and code baked into it, okay? So this is a $20 app. You download it onto your computer. I think it's now for both Mac and PC. It was Mac only when it first came out, but I think it's both now. And this is like your ChatGPT agent. So if I go to chat mode, I can ask it to, I just talk to it, right? I can literally talk to it just like you would ChatGPT. But it has this feature called co-work that is an absolute game changer if you have anything on your local computer. So this is what I hook up to my email. This is what I hook up to my desktop. This is where I have it go do things. So like I said, I think I said this is $20 a month for this service. Earlier we talked about the ethics side of this. This is Anthropic that makes this. They're the ethical AI company. This is called Claude, C-L-A-U-D-E, Claude, okay? And so you download the app, you use the co-work feature, and why, here's a good example of why I think they're an ethical company. When it uses credits very similarly, it's not as transparent about how it uses the credits, but when it's working, it'll go, 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 go. And if you push it too hard, it'll say, I've hit my limit for today, boss. I'll start back at 7 p.m. tonight when I can recharge. Versus the other ones that just keep going and send you a bill, right? And so they've just made a deliberate decision. I think you can toggle that feature off if you're happy to just keep paying money, but the default decision they make is to like do the right thing, even if it's not the most valuable to their business. So that's why I use that term to say they're a little more ethical maybe than others. So let me give you, here's an example that maybe hits on yours, right? Here's what I was trying to do, okay? I own a board game store. I was attempting to go download all of the shipment notifications that I've gotten from a certain supplier that I have over the last 6 years. Right? And what I want to do is I want to go look at every email that they've ever sent me that has an invoice attached to it. They're PDF invoices, right? And I want to pull all of those down, and I want to understand how my costs of goods sold have changed over time, and specifically categorically, like a game store, my dice, my board games, my trading cards, my game supplies, like are there any notices in that system that I need to understand as I start to strategically think about purchasing and cash on the floor and churn rate and all those sorts of things. So I came to this tool and I said, will you please go do this? Here's the email address that they all come from, shipment notifications at, And it says, I need you to hook up your Gmail account. So I authenticated my Gmail account with this app. It goes, Gmail is loaded, it's connected, here we go. It's giving you the play-by-play the whole time. It's like literally talking to you like, I did these things for you. So here's what it did, is it found 208 emails. It downloaded those PDF files. It went line item through every single item that I ordered over the last 6 years from this place. It put it all into a CSV file for me, like organized and processed, and it handed it to me that I can then take and put into my Replit app to understand the charts and dashboards and everything else that I've done. That's a project you could have done. You could have somebody on your team do that. But it would have taken hours, maybe days, maybe a week, depending on how efficient those folks are. This, I pushed a button, right? And now I have that capability in front of me. And so 206 files, 39 megs, here's what we did. We pulled all these things down. Here's the actual CSV file I created. There's the data, like done, right? So what CoWork does that's different than ChatGPT is it actually connects to your desktop and it will take over your browser and it will interact as you. So sometimes people try to do things. I was with a client earlier today who was trying to do something that has two-factor authentication, right? They have to log into their vendor portal and they have to do the two-factor thing. And they're like, how do I do this? And I said, well, what I would do is I would log in on your own computer like you normally would. Then I would go to Claude CoWork and I would say, take over my screen and go do all of these things for me. What they were doing, their system was so antiquated that they had to physically open something up over here and copy and paste 42 different fields over to here, right? And there's no way around it because there's just not an export-import, there's not an API, it just is what it is. And I showed this woman today how to do this. I said, go ahead and log into both of these systems and we're gonna try it. And we did it. And she said she spends between 2.5 and 3 hours per day doing this. And now she will never have to do it again. And she was literally crying in the meeting, right? Like, what a blessing, what a cool thing. And the whole thing as an employer is like, the goal there isn't to get rid of this woman. The goal is to give her the ability to go do other things. Now she gets to be proactive and help grow your business instead of just farting in this weeds, right? Like, what a cool, cool thing. And so Claude CoWork is great for that. Replit is the tool I use probably more than anything else just to build the application side of stuff. We've got 10 minutes left. I'm happy to just keep throwing crap at you guys if you just want to see it. It's always hard in a room like this, right? Hopefully this is helpful, but I definitely want to hear from you. So what do you, bring it on. Yeah.
Personal experience. Have you chose LLM? Here's my 24-hour day, 7 daily, 365 days.
Yep.
Help me. It's more efficient, more effective. What else, knowing my interests, can I now add to my life?
Yep.
How would you do that?
It's not ready yet, is my experience. So you can tell it that and have that conversation, but generally as human beings, we're not very good at tracking our own time and our own resources, right? Like, I'm way less efficient than I think I am as a proud man, right? And so here's what I'm attempting to do, because here's how I'm planning to solve that problem. How many of you have heard of OpenClaw? Is anybody in here familiar with that concept? So I bought a Mac Mini, right? It's a standalone Mac device. I downloaded this open source software called OpenClaw onto it. Do not do that yet, please, okay? It's not ready. I just did a podcast episode on it. Go listen to it. I walked you through it. Moral of the story is that it's the future, or some version of it is the future, but it's still messy. Here's what it's intended to do, is you install it on your computer. I call mine Jarvis, like Robert Downey Jr.'s little robot friend from Iron Man. And I gave him an email address, and I gave him a cell phone number, and I gave him a Slack bot. So I can literally text Jarvis right now, which is my little bot sitting on my desk in my office, and it'll receive the text message and it'll go on a quest and do whatever I tell it to do. So why that's promising is because if I start CCing it on things and start uploading audio, I have this little device here. If you do a lot of in-person meetings and you want to digitize, I highly recommend this device. It's called a Plaud, P-L-A-U-D. It's like $150. It's $20 a month for the unlimited storage. But you literally just set it on the table and push this button, and it will record the entire conversation, take notes, and send them to you, right? And if you're doing it with the same people in the room all the time, you can actually train it on each person's voice, and it will say, hey, at the end of the meeting, it'll say, this is what Kurt said, this is what David said, this is what Jayson said, and it'll assign to-dos to you based on who was supposed to do what at the end. Plaud, P-L-A-U-D.
I set up an open brain
Uh-huh, yep,
for that whole idea.
yeah.
Have you played with that?
I have not. I've heard of it. I have not played with it. Like it?
I like that Claude has awareness of a whole bunch of stuff that it didn't used to.
Yeah.
So now just say, add notes to the open brain.
Yeah.
But I don't know how rigid a semantic database that I haven't structured could be.
At some point, it'll become a junk drawer.
Well, the part about a junk drawer, though, is that eventually it can parse the junk, right? Because you put the brain on top of it. It doesn't have to be structured Postgres database, right? It can just be a blob of stuff that it can start to parse and process. So my answer to your question, Greg, is my goal with Jarvis is to CC him on all this stuff and have him start to give recommendations. What that tool is designed to do is it's intended to think ahead. Hey, I heard you mention to Larry, my assistant, that I had to get an email out on Tuesday about my podcast, and it's Monday morning, so I went ahead and drafted a version of it for you, versus me saying, go draft a version of this podcast for me, right? That's where this is headed, where it's going to start predictively giving us tools, because it can run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, out on a computer that I don't touch. It's air gapped from everything else. It literally lives by itself in this little corner, and it can do those sorts of things, right? And so I believe fundamentally we're probably a year out maybe from that type of tool really coming together. Tools like this feed into it, this Plaud device. Tools like Zoom where it takes your notes and puts them right in. I mean, it just depends, and this comes back to the whole Delta framework stuff. It depends how much we want to give it, right? If you're nervous and don't want it listening to every phone call you have, then it's not going to have that information. If I am from the generation of like, I'll give you the recipe. You can have it. I'll probably cook better than you can. That's kind of my approach, right? And so I just give it all and then hope to use those tools. Like Amazon is one of those fascinating creatures where it's like frustrating that it always knows what I want, but then I always buy what it tells me to buy because it's right. It's like I do want that thing. And so that's just part of, I think, figuring out how to manage our own personal privacy in this process. Yeah, David?
Would you consider using AI for, I'll call creative problem-solving situations where it's not data-oriented?
Love it.
We got a mess, and what are we going to do?
Love it. 100% yes. The key there is making sure that you don't let it lead you down the wrong path. Simon, close your ears for just a second, buddy, okay? I have an Amanda bot. My wife's name is Amanda, okay? And one of the things I heard a long time ago was that there are a lot of marriages that are having challenges because people are turning to ChatGPT as their therapist, right? The problem with ChatGPT or these tools is that they parrot you. They tell you what you want to hear. And so when you're complaining about a frustrating situation, it's going to just take you, man, she's being really unreasonable right now, right? You should, okay, hold on. So what I did was I built a bot that literally gives me only her perspective, right? This makes no sense to me. Help me understand it, please, right? And so how I think about it is when you're asking it for those things, make sure that you're asking it to be critical of you. Make sure you're asking it to show you your blind spots, right? There's a guy I heard recently say the 4 C's, help collude with me on this idea, help critique this idea, help criticize this idea, and help condemn this idea, right? And like, think about it that way. Don't just always give it, because it will drive you, it'll just prove to you you're right. Because all it wants to do is make you happy. Yeah?
What are some good resources?
You're good, buddy.
To help guide to build some of these, to kind of figure out how to do what you showed us?
Good resources for it?
Some good resources to say, hey, I want to do this.
Yeah. The honest answer there is, and this is hard to hear, the honest answer there is humble yourself and just go ask questions. Literally what I would do is I would download Claude, and I told people this today, download Claude and open it up and say, I don't really know how to use you. How do I use you to get the most out of you? And it will say, well, what are you trying to do? And you'll say, well, I run a business and I'm having issues with my finances and daily balances. right? And I'm trying to figure out how to do this. Is that a tool you can help me with, or can you recommend a different tool that might help me? And quite literally, it's about moving away from looking for some influencer to tell you exactly what to do, because it's moving so fast. And it's just getting comfortable with the idea of humbling yourself and asking the tools.
So it'll prompt you how to put these things together.
100%. Absolutely, yes. But you have to be willing to keep asking. Where we fall down, especially as humble Hoosiers, is we don't like to offend anybody, right? And we don't like to look stupid in front of other people. That's a human characteristic, and I think we personally struggle with that probably more than many people. And so just, it's a robot. It's not a person. You're not going to offend it, and you're not going to look stupid. I love when I'm in a room of people and we're building something, I love it when it fails. Because I'm like, well, crap, that didn't work. Let's try this, right? And it's that. It's literally just like, well, today I was trying to get a Excel file from this format to this format and make it match. And I literally looked at it and I was like, this isn't even close. So I took a screenshot of what it gave me and a screenshot of what I gave it. And I said, will you please look at these two and you tell me if they're close? And it was like, man, we're way off. I'm like, yeah. And so that's just, you just have to be willing to like push those buttons.
What's your favorite trick question? So ChatGPT 5.4.
Yep.
I need to wash my car.
Yep.
Car wash is a block away.
Yep.
Should I walk or drive? And
Okay.
it'll tell you to walk.
Yeah, for sure.
And but Claude will say you should drive because
It will tell you to walk today. Sometimes it changes, right? Because that's a
object permanence thing, which is really interesting.
some suck. Yeah, but it'll fix that. It used to have how many R's are in strawberry or blueberry, and it would tell you wrong, and then you'd be like, no, spell it, and it would get it wrong multiple times. I mean, it's just part of it.
Okay. One more question.
We're at 6, but go ahead.
Bring it back to the beginning.
Yeah.
I've been novice. You give me a lot of good ideas. We'll play around with and you start learning a little bit more.
Yep.
Seems like it'd be intoxicating you.
Yep.
Because you can start going down around.
Yep.
Doing this, and this.
Yep.
Getting more and more efficient. How have you limited yourself at doing it?
It's a great question. So I think it's all about a construct of setting up your life, right? Just like anything else. Too much of anything is a sin, I believe, right? Of anything. And so my perspective is like, find out what your priorities are and work around those as constructs. I could sit at home all night tonight and vibe code and build stuff and go, but it's more important that I spend time with my kiddo at the basketball game. But what you can do here that is a superpower is you can queue things. So regularly when I go to bed at night, I'll give it 15 or 20 tasks, and then I just shut my computer and go to bed. And when I wake up the next morning, it has been working all night long. And it's wild, because it's like having an overseas employee on a different time zone that's just doing its thing, right? And if that's helpful, right? Now I hit the ground running in the morning and I'm off. But it really, like anything, too much of it is a bad thing, and you just have to be honest with yourself. Build a men's group. Hold each other accountable, right?
Okay, Jayson, leave us with this thing.
Yeah.
Should we push free stuff to the limit, or should we go out right now? What's the best money spent?
100% you should not push free stuff, and here's why. How many of you use Facebook or Instagram at all, right? If you use Facebook, how much do you pay for it? Nothing. So it's a $1 trillion company. You're paying nothing for it. You are the product, right? Literally, you are the product. And so if you're using any of these AI tools and you're not paying for them, you have no privacy around any of your stuff getting shared into the model and being built into how it learns, and it could be taking all your stuff. The $20 a month version is probably the best expense you can make.
So buy Claude for $20 a month.
If you're brand new, I would probably recommend starting with ChatGPT because it's the easiest to get comfortable with.
And what's the rate?
It's about 20. They have a $12 a month now, I think. But if you have used ChatGPT at all and you're ready to put your first dollars in, I would probably buy Claude, $20 a month.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's give it up for Jayson.